Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a very special edition. We are joined by Maria Farmer, folks. She is here on the podcast to give you what really happened, the real story from the source. No more BS with journalists, no more BS with middlemen, right from the source herself. Hey, Maria, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Bobby. Hello, everyone. I'm so appreciative that you're having me on here. And I am on here today because the mainstream media has just been so disappointing. I do want to say a couple people from the mainstream I met were amazing. CBS has a lot of class, and Anthony Mason, I want to give him a shout out because he's probably the most elegant, interviewer out there. And he's very respectful, very caring about, what's happened to me and my health. That is not the experience I had with anyone else. Everyone else used me and cut everything I said. So it was really devastating because I was in the middle of being treated for a brain tumor. And ABC News, actually, the producer of 2020 came and he picked me up and he drove me to New York. And two things didn't happen there. Number one, they didn't ask me any of the important questions. And when I did just go ahead and spew them, those were all cut. And all of that stuff was about Wexner and all the real stuff that happened and the real things I saw. But they were afraid because you know who owns that network? Just look at it. Look at who owns it. And they're doing the bidding for some people who are, trying to destroy us currently. So, I'm not a fan. And the other thing that didn't happen in New York City, which was the most upsetting thing in the world to me, was the effing BI did not interview me there. Now, my sister, who's very healthy, she flew out for a day and they interviewed her. I had to be driven there. It took 2 days with my friends supporting me. I was so sick, my face blew up like I don't even know. And they knew how sick I was and they knew I was there and they didn't ask to interview me. And Bobby, that's because the FBI does not want to know the truth. It's inconvenient for them. The truth is a great inconvenience for them. And they've tried to erase me for many years. And I'm sure they're counting on me, just dying because they made me sick by not protecting me. This is the country that we live in. It's just mind-numbing to me. It actually took me about 24 years to wake up to the fact that I had been put in a bottom drawer under a lot of other stuff, and I was never going to be addressed. I did find out the other day on Twitter, a guy, I won't say his name, contacted me, and he was, let's just say, he works in the federal courts, and he said that Berman worked under Giuliani, and this is very disappointing to me, because I was in New York during the Giuliani administration, and I always thought he was the king of the world, and now I know he's not, because this man told me that Berman worked right under Giuliani, and that Berman had announced that this was just something they had to do politically, this arrest, but it was just to distract. It's not real. I'm just telling you what was told to me and what my experience has been. Berman, when he announced the Epstein arrest, had the nerve. This is the most hurtful thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Now, remember, I have cancer while this is going on, and he knows it. And he has a big poster of Jeffrey Epstein's face, and he gets out his little pointer. And he's like, has anyone ever seen this man? We've never heard of him until the Miami Herald. Now, that's another scam, the Miami Herald. I would like to call out that woman. She is really awful. And I believe she's siding with Vicky Ward right now. And she never interviewed my sister and I. And she does this all for money. It's all about money for her. We feel used. People feel used by her. And I can't even think of her name. She's so unimportant. But she wanted to go ahead and copy Brad Edwards' notes and make a book. And she made it about herself instead of making it about the case. She, promoted it. She's on the cover of People like she's some freaking hero. She's not a hero. She never reached out to me all these years. She knew damn well what happened to me. And I'll tell you something else. Vicky Ward knew all these years. People should be really telling CNN to get that woman fired. What kind of journalist sits on this for 25 years, Bobby? And she sat on it from 2002. So how many years is that? I don't know. But that is one, and she actually had the nerve to reach out to me on Instagram because I told CNN I refused to interview. They kept reaching out to me, harassing me on my art website. My lawyers at Boyd Schiller had to tell her to tell them to cease and desist. They sent Vicky a personal letter, and Vicky then acts like she's buddies with them because she thinks she's an elite. And she's like, oh, thanks, Sigrid. I'm so grateful. Yeah, whatever. It's all just a game to her, and she knows it. And so she reaches out to me on Instagram, Vicky Ward, actually scolds me on Instagram and says I'm a very rude person because I will not speak with her. And she reprimands me. She's this English hoity-toity faux journalist. And her books, oh my God. Please don't make me laugh. She and Plum Sykes, all these little buddies from Great Britain, they're a joke. They're just wannabe elites. They came to New York. They live with rich men. And some of those rich men are buddies with Wexner. And it's interesting to me that this kept woman, which is what it is when you just live with a rich man and you tell everyone you have to so you can maintain your lifestyle, right? So that's all gossipy, but the point of it is, while she was living in luxury, Bobby, I was being chased in the woods by Guylaine, literally from one hillbilly town to another. I had to live where I could afford to live, and I had to restore houses for a living. I gave up my art career because the FBI never offered me witness protection, but they had the nerve to come to me 10 years later in North Carolina and ask for my help. And the only reason I cooperated was because Nesbitt Kirkendall, who was the agent, who no one can find now, allegedly she's still with the FBI, but her neighbors say she keeps moving in the middle of the night. Does that mean she's in witness protection? I don't know. Brad said she had family issues. Who knows? The point is, it's a very sketchy situation. When your FBI agent goes into hiding, you're in hiding, and the FBI doesn't protect anybody. Nesbitt Kirkendall is an actual hero. She tried to take this case when those guys decided, when our president's attorneys decided that they were going to give the sweetheart deal. Nesbitt fought like bloody hell for all of us. She was our hero. And there were only two of us at the time. There were all the victims that were either in diapers or not born when I had reported it. Now think about that, Bobby.
And that was 95, right?
It was in 1996.
96, okay.
Yeah, actually I reported it, I can tell you, it was in the in the fall of 96. Yeah, it was after I returned from that wonderful trafficking experience at the Les Wexner estate.
Yeah. And that's
the thing that's so disgusting about all this, the cover-up, people say to me, I get harassed, like, why haven't you come forward earlier? First of all, Bobby, I want to say something. I am the only person who ever came forward and made it count. And so this had resurfaced. And so it became popular for people like Vicky Ward to, start talking about it again. So Vicky Ward started harassing my entire family again. She wanted some kind of statement. But anyway, I was really upset. So I reached out to Gloria Allred. I want this on there. Gloria Allred. Boy, what a piece of work that woman is. She and her daughter. I'm doing a portrait of them right now. It's a two-headed monster. And I can't wait for people to see it because they'll love it. Because they are the most despised people on earth. Just so you know, when they go to court, everybody else is laughing. I know this for a fact. Everyone feels sorry for them because the showmanship is out of control. And there's clearly no representation for women. I'll get to Emily Steele in a minute, but the one good thing she did is she revealed how evil those two are in a Focal Flick episode on NPR. So you might want to look that up. But they do not represent victims. They represent getting themselves money and power and names. And it's the filthiest thing I've ever seen. So I turned to her, Gloria Allred, when I was at the bottom of the barrel, right? Here I was, very sick with a brain tumor. I didn't know I had it, but I had it for over 20 years. I got it right as I was leaving the Wexner estate. Think about that. They said it's from trauma. It's not genetic. So anyway, that woman, I told her, I told them I was very sick. I spoke to her assistant. Her assistant puts me on hold for a while. I'm on speaker. I can hear this woman. And it said that they don't believe me.
Wow.
I don't believe you. Sorry. The other thing said to me is, you don't have a case. And I tell them about Annie. All of it. I told Gloria Allred has known for years about this. Not only that, she's in that group. She hangs with them. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
They're all, I'm not saying she hangs out with Jeffrey Epstein, but it was indicated to me in that call that I better watch my mouth because I could be sued for defamation by Ghislaine Maxwell. So I took from that she was friends with Ghislaine. Isn't that interesting?
Well, we know that they were friends with Weinstein. So
you better believe they were friends with Weinstein.
So you
better believe they're all connected. You better believe it, Bobby.
It's not a step too big.
It's a clusterfuck. Okay, it's a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's the tentacle has many tentacles.
It does. And oh gosh, now I forgot where I was headed. Sorry. I can't remember what
we're talking about. Gloria Allred and defamation.
So after Gloria Allred rejected me as a client and said, you don't have a case, it was later told to me she didn't think she could get enough money out of it. And that's what a lawyer told me. Not my lawyer, a friend that's a lawyer that she knows. Told me, you know what she does? She goes for money. So then Gloria Allred, after this Berman guy pretends he's never heard about Jeffrey Epstein. Now let me tell you, he's known about it for 24 years at that point because I reported it to his office.
Yep.
In 1996. So I'm sitting there shaking. We've been put into poverty and obscurity. I was a very successful artist. And then I was pushed into nothingness and poverty and pushed into, I had to move to save my life because I had Mossad after my ass. And I couldn't even tell anyone or they'd lock me up in a mental institution. So I couldn't even turn to a therapist, Bobby. I was alone in this. And, my sister and my mom and I, we never really talked about it. I didn't want them more fearful. And they knew it was happening, but we just, it's just crazy how you survive and you just go on. But, the day that he was arrested, Gloria Allred stands on the courthouse steps begging for victims. And now she's representing one that possibly met him once. She claims she met him in a hotel without her clothes. And then she went to a police officer, she claims. Well, she tries to say that she was the first who ever came forward. And she indicates she went to the feds. This girl never, ever went to the feds. She went to the police department, and they did not believe her because she's not a terribly credible person because she does not wear clothing. Okay, so it's hard. It's just really hard for the rest of us because we were raped and victimized and chased. We didn't go to a hotel and then record our tears. We actually were victimized. We're actual victims. And I want people to remember that these victims, aside from just a few of us, were children. And children don't have a voice. They're like dogs. We have to protect them. Animals need our protection because they don't have a voice. So all of these elites, all of them, Eileen Guggenheim, who's not a real Guggenheim, she's a Guggenheim like Stan Pottinger says, any Guggenheim in the phone book in Florida. She's not from the art family. And there's an article on that in Vanity Fair that came out in 95 or 96, I believe. I think it was 1995, about she and her sister, and they're faux Guggenheims, and they're social climbers. So anyway, that woman pretended to be a real Guggenheim and uses that name. I mean, she indicates it, So she's always calls herself Eileen Guggenheim. But the point is, she was my pimp. She tried to push me. I got a call from her when I was at home, telling me, visiting home, I was in the academy, but I was visiting at home and I was just graduating and I went home to visit family. And she gives me a call saying there's a guy in England. He's a famous artist. It's amazing. And she wants me to go there and be his concubine. This is not a joke. This is the dean of the New York Academy of Art. And the guy's name was Cy Twombly. He was a famous artist, crap art. I didn't like it. But anyway, they had a thing going where she was going to get a woman for him. That's called being a pimp. So he calls me in Arizona, just like she just had. And he says, you're going to come here and you're going to be my lover and my life partner. And I was like, I have a boyfriend and I'm just graduating from graduate school and I'm going to be living in New York where my home is. And I hung up. Okay. So I never spoke to that creep again. But then she also tried to pawn me off to different men and she would invite me to all the openings, and she'd have me like be all flirty with them, and she'd say, go talk to them over there and charm them for the academy, Maria, for the academy. She's an academy pimp. But the reason she's doing that, I would highly suspect, is for her own wallet. Because she's president of the board still.
I was going to say, isn't she on?
5 years later,
she's on the board.
Somebody needs to start a petition now to get this criminal, this pimp, off the board.
Well,
I am so, and listen to me, she'll try to sue me, and her brother-in-law, Bert Fields, he can lick the shoes of David Boies if he feels like it. And I'll tell you, Bert's a nice guy. I met him. He was nice to me. He actually said, I'm sorry you had to deal with my wife. And when I went home, I think he'd called Jeffrey Epstein, or Eileen had, because I went home. I had to walk home because Barbara Guggenheim, when I worked for her for 2 weeks, did not pay me a red cent. She gave me 2 expired traveler's checks. And when I told her, she said, tough shit. Tough shit.
So these people that swim around in their money like Scrooge McDuck, they give you expired traveler's checks.
That's right. They steal art. Jeffrey Epstein stole art from a lot of artists. One of them is Chuck Bowdish. He has a mental illness, and he's a genius. How dare them, right?
Yeah.
They stole from a man who was actually married Plum Sykes later. He was a genius artist. Not a genius. He was just a really great artist and kind of a great guy, Damien Loeb. And I had become very good friends with him. So I got a painting called Little Miss Pink Tomato I took, which the FBI, they've stolen all these now. They said they're claiming all the art. So we had to file. My lawyers had to file for me to get my art back that was stolen from me. And I would like to get Chuck Bowdish's art back. I'd like to get Damien Loeb's art back. That was stolen because I took it. I was the messenger who took it. And I don't appreciate them stealing from destitute artists. Damien Loeb had to live in not a storage unit, but it was really bad. He was living in his work studio illegally. And it was a horrible, horrible sight. And I wanted to get him some money. And he hated me after that. And he said very bad things to me. He became part of the Mod Squad. And of course he hated me. Why wouldn't he? He thought I'd stolen his art.
Right. And at that time, you were working to collect art for Jeffrey Epstein, to buy art for Jeffrey Epstein,
yes.
Correct?
Yes. So what happened is after Barbara Guggenheim did not pay me, let me explain too. Eileen Guggenheim used all the students as like slaves. So to clean her house, I was always cleaning her house. I was a student. But she would pay me, $10 an hour. And she'd treat me like a piece of garbage. And I would be over there cleaning her house, I babysat for her little monster daughter. It was a nightmare. Okay, the child was so spoiled. It was a nightmare. Then this little monster daughter worked for the New York Times. She does work for the New York Times for the style section now. The funny thing is they always called me a nobody, all these people. But who's the nobody now? Bobby, who's ever heard of these people until I mentioned them? No one's ever heard of Eileen Guggenheim. Right. I can assure you.
I certainly did.
I'm sorry, what?
I had no idea who she was until you and I talked the first time, and you let me know what her role was within Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise, and I went and did some research on her, and I was blown away by what I found.
That's right. This hag and her hag sister have been desperately climbing the social ladder for a very long time, to no avail. No one cares who they are. They are the nobodies. That's the irony here. They are so soulless, these people, Bobby. And this is the thing I wanted to share with people. And it might sound really out there, and I don't actually care. I know you report the facts, but I'm going to give you some information here that's a little bit maybe almost spiritual. These people do not have souls, Bobby. I'm going to tell you. I've been in communication with David Icke. And he made it really clear to me why I was around them, because they don't have a creative spirit at all. They totally lack creativity. If you notice these elites, they're always hanging out in the art world, trying to promote the art. Now I know real collectors. Anthony Mason's a real collector. He's an actual collector. The way he treats young artists and tries to promote them, now that's there's a gentleman in Florida who bought a painting from me. He's a real collector. It's just amazing to me, though, the people who pretend to collect art and pretend to help artists. I was destitute, and Eileen called me one time and said, I would buy a painting from you, but it's like not on trend right now. And so I'm hiring this other artist to do my portrait. And I actually, once she did it, I put it in the garage. I didn't like it. I'm kind of bummed I didn't hire you. She also bought up the most beautiful painting I did of her daughter for $3,000, Bobby. My paintings were selling for $20. And she said, you'll take it because the Academy, Bobby, the Academy, be grateful. She said to me when I questioned her, have a little grace.
So she would wield the Academy sort of like a cudgel to get you students to produce and sell art to benefactors of the Academy, perhaps, or donors, or whatever it may be, so they catch a deal, and so that the Academy on the backside has another patron, and their exposure's bigger, etc.
She's a pimp.
Got it.
In many, 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 many ways, and they need to be very, very ashamed. And when the statutes change, they should probably be afraid because people will sue.
Well, I'm telling you right now, if it ever comes down the pipe that this becomes a RICO case, all of these people,
she's in deep.
They better run for the hills, because the second a forensic accountant gets busy and starts looking into all of these transfers, it's a wrap for everybody.
Oh yeah, she lied at first. Eileen Guggenheim is a liar. She lied and said, and she was called out on her lies. ArtNet caught her in her lies. So you can look up the ArtNet articles
about Santa Fe, right?
Lies.
When she said she didn't go.
She lies and says he was not a patron of the Academy, that he wasn't on the board. She lies, and it was very clear. And then she lies about taking me, pushing them onto me. You know what's amazing? I think Eileen Guggenheim must have dementia. She no longer remember. I don't remember. You know, notice how they all do this?
All of them. That's the MO for all of them. Yeah.
Eileen Guggenheim and Ghislaine Maxwell were as tight as ticks. And that was because Eileen Guggenheim kissed Ghislaine Maxwell's butt because she's a wannabe. And wannabes use students. Wannabes are cruel to people who are disenfranchised. Wannabes say things like this. My sister was going to go to Penn, and Eileen was really trying to push for her to not go to Penn, but to go to this other kind of Ivy League that's prominent, I'm not going to mention. And Annie didn't want to go there. And I think it's weird that she was pushing. And I said, Annie wants to go to Penn. And she said, but Maria, she cannot go there. And I said, why? And she said, because Black people live in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
that's a quote. It shocked me so much. I went home and wrote it in my journal, and I felt like I'd unzip my skin and walk out of it. These people are supremacists, Bobby.
Yep, these are the kind of people that would have us think that they're capable of lording over us and making the rules and telling us how we should live our lives, when it's obvious that all of them collectively have a broken moral compass.
That is right. And I'm calling them out right now because I was just diagnosed, believe it or not, with a second kind of cancer. And it's so rare to have just discovered two kinds of cancers in 1 year that they said this is 100% from my suffering. My doctors are like, you better believe that this is not a genetic glitch. You know, no one in my family's even had cancer except my grandmother. I mean, it's absurd. Okay. So, and I was a runner. I've always eaten organic. I've been the healthiest person my whole life, but I've been under unbelievable stress, and I'm still in hiding. I'm still in hiding because they won't arrest Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman who has assured me she will murder me. She will have me taken out. She has assured me of this. Virginia's in a different country. She had to get married. You know, I mean, think about this. I mean, I'm sure she fell in love and got married, but she was very young and she didn't feel safe. Think about it. She didn't feel safe to come back here.
Yeah, her story was...
Why would Virginia have felt safe ever?
Ever.
The FBI has done nothing to protect any of these people that they knew were going to be taken.
And it's not...
They knew it.
And not just the FBI. The legacy media has a lot of blood on their hands for what they have done throughout this story. And
you look at that black book, Bobby. All of those people knew.
I know.
I've had an unredacted copy that was accidentally left at my house by an alphabet soup agency. And I'm going to tell you something. I have studied it for many years now. And all of those people knew, and they're culpable. You were talking about that Courtney Love. She's a vile piece of crap. You better believe she was in on it.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Me?
All of these people, I mean, not to get off subject.
They all knew he was raping children, Bobby.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm getting really upset here, but when I found out what happened, I went to the 66th Street buildings, which those people who treated me like a servant were having me decorate. So I had a key. And I went in there and I knocked on the chef's door. His name was Chef Andy. His name is Andy Stewart. I'm calling him out. Andy Stewart, we know where you are. We found him now. And he is not going to hide anymore. He's the holy grail to this case. Andy Stewart, you don't have long. If it becomes RICO, you're deep. And I'm going to tell you something. I approached him and I said, because my sister was stolen. And I said, how could you have let my sister be trafficked and me? And he said, you knew all along because everyone knew, Maria. And I slapped him on the face.
Good.
And I left. I left there and I never went back. And I wish I'd taken his phone number first because that man saw it all and he let it happen. But he was a servant. Think about this. All the ones going to the dinner parties knew. We have 2 presidents now who knew, both of whom I reported to the FBI, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. I reported to the FBI in 1996. They knew all the perpetrators. But let me tell you, Louis Freeh had just been appointed a couple weeks before as the 7th ever FBI director. Louis Freeh, by the way, is in the private sector making millions, folks. Look him up and write him a letter. Ask him why he did nothing. He knew damn well about this.
If he would have listened to you then, it would have prevented all of the future abuse, all of the future pain, and all of the suffering. But once again, the FBI is too busy sending SWAT teams to people's houses because they're gambling.
That's right. Or maybe something like, we tried to get our daughters into college because there was a sleaze bag who sold us a story singer. And so they're going after these people who
Exactly.
don't fit in their elite set.
It's a joke.
Maybe they're going after, let's just say an Italian and a white woman because they're not elites. You know?
And that's what I try to explain to people all the time. When we're dealing with these people, the 1%, it is really...
They're not even 1%. They're
0.5, whatever it may be. These people they don't care about, if they look at everybody else, it doesn't matter your color, and we're all trash to them. So
that is right.
The only way we can ever take back what they have stolen from us, which is our country, which is our moral compass as a country, is if we all stand together and we don't get involved in any divisive BS that the disinformation agents love to throw out there so that the case is disjointed.
We have been suffocated by silence, by the MSM. We have been suffocated. I'm going to tell you, every girl has cried after the interviews. That NBC interview was very upsetting to Virginia and to a lot of them. First of all, they tried to make her look like the queen, anointing the others. It was very insulting to everybody. And I know Virginia was horrified because she has a good spirit and she has a very generous spirit, and she does not want that to happen. But the other thing the FBI has done is they've allowed Virginia's name to get out there because it fits in their story a little bit. Because if I never existed, imagine that, if I never existed, then they only found out about it when Virginia was hurt, right? And then they contacted her. They were the heroes. They contacted her.
Right. And when you're looking at it in context, we all know that the FBI will do anything so that they don't look bad. And I just mean the FBI. I'm talking about the ATF. Just take a look at Ruby Ridge. Take a look at Waco. Right. Just go through the list.
You don't have to dig very deep.
You don't. The FBI is corrupt. They need to be rebranded. They need to be...
They need to be dismantled.
Yes.
All alphabet soup agencies just have to go.
Agreed.
They're the enemy of the people, Bobby.
I agree.
What they do is they steal, they're in on it. They're in on the whole thing. And they divert attention by arresting people who are innocent Americans.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something. This isn't about... I love it when people pull out the anti-Semite card. Listen to me. Most of my boyfriends have been Jewish, and they've watched me go through this, and they have said, this is not a Jewish problem.
No.
This is an elite problem. And let me tell you, the Jews are treated the same way that every ethnic and every group, every religion, we're all shit on by the 0.001%.
Exactly. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just convinced that there's something off genetically, deeply, deeply, deeply off, that they're able to be the psychopathy has taken over to this level. I do believe that these children are missing for a reason.
When you have unchecked power for so long, like these intelligence agencies have, they become something that is unacceptable. The depraved behavior that we have witnessed, even when it has to do with, say, enemies of the state. Say somebody caught on a battlefield and they take them to a black site and torture them. That is so un-American. It is so unacceptable to me that occurs.
Right.
And the fact that people will defend that and think that they will not do that to American citizens as well and ruin American citizens as well, it's just so naive to have that sort of worldview when we know the incredible evil that these people are capable of.
Yes, that's right. And they have one goal, Bobby, and that's to take over the whole world. That's their only goal. They want full control. They're racist as can be. I'm going to say racist as fuck, okay? I was told that I wasn't allowed by Guylaine, after I'd eaten at the country club a couple times, little Claire Hazel, the person babysitting me, who, by the way, lives in a Guinness castle now because she was married up in England. She was Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend. Claire Hazel, look her up. She's now a Guinness. And she lives in the castle where they filmed Eyes Wide Shut. They're putting it in front of us.
Oh, they're very brazen. They're very brazen about it. There's no doubt. And
very brazen.
They always have been.
Well, my handler, Claire Hazel, was able to take me a few times to the country club, and she was a nightmare. Let me tell you, these people, they will do anything for money. Anything. She was the grossest. I couldn't be around her. I finally told Jeffrey, she disgusts me. I don't want to be around her anymore. And he said, I don't blame you. I mean, honest to God. And she was his girlfriend. He kept her at the school. She had credit cards of his. Guylaine would call her all the time. Her boyfriend reached out to me, and he said, she pointed out the sharpshooters at the rotunda. That's what they call the guest house at the Wexner estate, the rotunda. They made it after the main, whatever, the courthouse or whatever it is in that stupid hellhole town. And so, I'm sorry, but Columbus is just corrupt as can be, okay? Just really corrupt. And that school should be ashamed of itself. When we were driving with ABC and we entered Ohio, the first thing I saw, Jim Hill pointing, he said, look at that. First thing over the border. It was the Abigail Wexner Center for Women.
Yep, and we know, and we've talked about this privately, you and I talk about it on the podcast certainly all the time. They use their charitable givings as a shield. So when the House of Cards comes tumbling down around them, they're able to fall back upon that and say, hey, wait, hold on a minute, I'm a charitable guy. You really think I would do anything like that?
Yeah, I'm a charitable guy. My attorney gets his face shot off if he disagrees with me, but I'm really charitable.
Exactly. And, they put on this persona when they're speaking in front of the public, but the second the microphone goes off and they're with their other so-called upper crust polite society friends, well, that mask goes away. And if anybody doesn't think that everybody knew who Jeffrey Epstein was, they're fooling themselves.
So I'm going to tell you a couple other things about the mainstream people. I just wanted to give a shout out. There's a girl, Kate, who writes for the Daily Beast, who's amazing. And I just want to say that because she tried to reveal recently what Vicky Ward was doing. And of course her editors wouldn't let her because that would be telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
That would be going in and revealing what's in that swamp.
And how
deep it is and how disgusting and filthy it is. Vicky Ward's on the news right now shaming people, and she should be shamed. She is so horrifying. But I didn't finish telling you, when she was reaching out to me and scolding me on Instagram, she said, Maria, I'm an Epstein victim.
Oh, another one, huh?
Yeah.
They all want a little piece of the pie.
Problem with Vicky Ward is every story she writes, she makes about Vicky Ward. That's another thing. I think that's called narcissism.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I sit here all these years and she scolds me. I'm going to tell that little English wad of crap that I don't care who she thinks she is because she's just a faux elite. I was also told a very funny story about her recently, but it's too gossipy. But she has no problem asking her date for $100,000 on the first date. Let me just put it that way. We are dealing with money-only people. They care very little about anything real.
No, it's all about...
And I have seen it over and over and over again, with the exception of Kate and Anthony Mason. All I've seen is greed. And poor Jim, he wasn't allowed to tell anything. He already knew it, though, and he put me through that. So I'm very disappointed in Jim. I just feel like not only that, his network then airs that person who wears assless chaps all over L.A. They air her, and she tells the same story I just told. That's funny. She says she could have protected all those children in Florida and that she thinks that Donald Trump's really nice. She never met Donald Trump. She's never been a Victoria's Secret model. No one ever wanted her to be. I know that for a fact. And so here's the thing. She had nothing to do with Les Wexner. She's never met him. And I'm tired of this because the truth is all that matters right now. The truth matters because right now we're all in lockdown, Bobby. And I know everybody has their own view on this. But I think this all smells a lot like Epstein.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing. When it comes down to this sort of situation where we're in a very, very odd place as Americans who believe in the Constitution and who are ready to, at a moment's notice, go crazy if our freedoms are taken away. We find ourselves in a situation that we have never been in before, and we have people that like to exploit situations like that.
Right.
And
right. We have the mainstream media lying. I'm going to tell your audience something that's not relevant to this, but I want to tell anybody who will listen. I had to go to the hospital because I just had thoracic surgery while this was all going on. And they had ventilators hanging on every door. And I said, why do you have ventilators on every door? And they said, well, we have 3 cases of this new virus, COVID-19. And I'm like, the flu? And she said, yeah, basically it's the flu. And I said, okay, you have 3 cases. Where are they? And she said, well, they're at home now. They're safe. They're okay. They've been in quarantine and they're fine. And she said, funny, they just got like head colds, not a lot. I'm not saying people aren't dying. I don't know why they're dying. People always die from the flu, by the way. I'm so tired of this charade. It's like, okay, maybe there's a virulent flu now, but it's being used as a weapon against us. And I'm afraid the next wave will be weaponized.
What I think they're doing when I see the coverage of this, and I fall down on both sides of this because I've always been interested in viral outbreaks and virology. There was a point in time where that's something that I was considering as a course of study. So I've been interested in this kind of stuff for a very long time, and from the very beginning when this started to happen in China, I knew something severely wrong was occurring. Right. Now, as far as the steps that the governments have taken with lockdowns and et cetera, I believe that at first it was good intentioned because let's remember the whole entire mantra was, let's flatten the curve. It wasn't so nobody else catches it. It wasn't so everybody stays home forever. It was to give the medical system time to catch up and have the facilities prepared in the eventuality that we have a wave of cases. Now it's turned into something completely different, and a lot of these governors have turned their states into minor fiefdoms where they're the king. And I'm not comfortable with it. And one thing I'm certainly not comfortable with is how it's dominating the media cycle and taking away from stories such as the one we're talking about here with Jeffrey Epstein when it was just gaining steam.
There are no coincidences, Bobby.
Well, of course, yeah.
We're dealing with the New World Order. This is not local. This is not, and I don't think Trump, I'm not a fan of the guy. Look, he was Epstein's friend, but I don't think he has any power anymore. I noticed when this first started breaking, he wouldn't even make eye contact with the camera. They had usurped the power, and he was pissed. And that Fauci guy is, if you start reading what he's been up to for the last few years, boy, he's a can of worms. So I believe that it smells like Epstein for a reason. I don't know what they did to create this. I don't know what's real. All I know is that they're using it against us again, because that's what they do. So whatever opportunity they have, they use against us. And pretty soon, we're not going to be, the reason I'm going on I'm very sick right now. And the reason I'm talking out to everyone is I want them to know the truth, Bobby. I can't keep it in any longer. And if something happens to me, I need people to know that the New World Order is the most evil organization in the world. Obviously, but they're going to there's a lot that's going to be happening, a lot of change. And if we don't revolt, Bobby, we're going to have ourselves in some trouble. We need a revolution. And the funny thing about this is I don't believe in coincidences. And I also know that I went to study art in the south of France because I was so obsessed with the French Revolution and the drawings that came out of that for a couple hundred years. Just whatever that came out of that following that. And so basically I went to study in France just so I could study those political drawings. And I never thought about it again. And then I had radiation. And all of a sudden one day, I made the largest political drawing in the world. And it's my own version of the Garden of Earthly Delights. It's going to be on Netflix. It's Kate from the Daily Beast. I'm not going to say her full name, but she's amazing. She's a truther. She's trying to get the truth out there about everything. So there are some good ones out there. They're young, they're energetic, and they have ethics. And that's so rare. It's just so rare, Bobby.
You know what I found with the Epstein case is that it makes for very strange bedfellows.
It sure does.
I have some allies that I've made during, my reporting of this case and my chasing of this case, where our politics are absolutely foreign to each other. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we need to know what truly was going on behind the curtain with Jeffrey Epstein, and we need to know who was pulling those strings. And the fact that the legacy media is so scared to jump in with both feet, and they're
terrified.
They keep tiptoeing.
Let me tell you something, Bobby. They are terrified because they're the people, pulling their strings. You ever notice that everything gets blamed on Russia? Have you ever noticed this?
Oh.
Russia this, Russia that.
They need a boogeyman.
That mad cow disease woman makes me sick. I'm an artist. I'm very liberal-minded, and I can't watch any networks other than I can watch CBS Morning News, and that's it.
Yeah,
and I can only read the Daily Beast.
It's all gaslighting.
New York Times. I want to tell you about what Emily Steele did to me, because I'll forget. Emily Steele from the New York Times she just delivered Rosemary's Baby, I think. I mean, this woman is evil. And I'm going to tell you, between Vicky Ward and Emily Steele, they chewed me up and spit me out, and there's very little left, and I'm fighting back. They tried to use me against my attorney and a very dear friend who's like a father to me, who's a very respectable man, because they wanted to take him down for Alan Dershowitz. And I never said anything about Alan Dershowitz until I only reported him to the authorities because I saw him. And that's all I ever said about him. And he has flipped out. He's now trying to get my phone. That actually, ironically, the phone that he was trying to get was lost. It had broken and it shut down. So we sent it to get it factory reset, or, to get it so that we could retrieve my information.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lost. So here's the thing. Alan Dershowitz is harassing me as a victim of Epstein, and he has no relationship to me whatsoever, except I reported him to authorities because I saw his ass. That's all. Because I named everyone that I saw come and go. And when NYPD came here, anyway, he's trying to get my phone. He's trying to discredit me. I waited 25 years to be able to talk. I've been suffocated by silence. I've been made sick. He can sue me all he wants. He and Gloria Allred, they're so full of it. Go ahead and sue the victims of Epstein. That's going to be a good look for you, Alan. He's already harassed the shit out of Virginia.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry I'm cursing, but he has harassed anyone who is against his version, which is based, and he also with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's a real winner. They tried to make it so that, I guess it's because of Talmudic Judaism or something. I'm not sure, because I looked it up and that's what came up.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade.
They tried to lower the age of consent to 12.
Well, I know that for a fact that Alan Dershowitz has argued for the age of consent to be lowered in an article in 91 or 92. He had a whole entire argument based on that. And that's just typical of these people you see that hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. These are all the same kind of folks. They're all fellow travelers. And Alan Dershowitz, he really has some answering of questions to do. Like, for instance, why would you fly to Zorro Ranch for 1 hour? Anyone who's familiar with Zorro Ranch knows that there's no reason for 1 hour of visiting. There's nothing there.
No.
So why would you go there for 1 hour? And these are the questions that this man does not want to answer. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say something. This guy, I just thought of it, and because of the brain tumor thing, I didn't have to be rude. That guy also, now I've forgotten it. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry, Bobby.
No, that's okay. So, that's just his MO. He tries to go with the scorched earth policy, and he tries to, scare everybody with the whole entire I'm going to sue you type thing. But at some point, he's going to run into people who don't care. And when
I don't care.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. I have nothing to lose. You go ahead, you satanic monster, and you go ahead and you try your hardest to ruin my life, but you can't do it because I'm going to create and I'm going to love these girls that were victimized. And we are in our love. We are going to unite and conquer your evil, Alan and Gloria, who's pretending to I feel so sorry for the girls that she's pretending to represent. She's taking a huge chunk. And you know what my lawyers are taking? Zero. Because they want victims to get some compensation.
Yep. At the very least, there needs to be a government. The government needs to recognize what occurred.
Well, I'll tell you something. That woman, Denise George, I'd like to punch her face. And Indike and Khan, are you kidding me? The names, just listen, Khan.
Yeah, really? I know. Talk about ironic,
you're
right?
A con artist,
yeah, totally
right?
Ironic.
It is. But you know, the other thing I've noticed is there is no irony in any of this. It's all intentional. They put it in our faces constantly. Whether it be, you know, through Hollywood, which I haven't gone to a movie in 10 years. I will not watch that crap. Hollywood reminds me of something. I would like to go to this part of the story. I always really had this thing where I admired Jada Pinkett Smith because she was kind of my hero. Because while I was going through all this suffering, I felt this kindred thing with her because I thought she fought Hollywood. I thought she protested so that African Americans and those that were disenfranchised would actually have a voice in Hollywood, right? I thought she was a real hero. I was wrong. She asked me to be on her show. Well, Megan Kaufman asked me to be on her show. I think that's her name, Megan Kaufman. I think it's Kaufman. It's Megan for sure. Called me to interview me for the roundtable, and it's a really positive show. It's on something I don't do any of those things, but it's on Facebook. So I've never seen it, but my sister said it's amazing and positive, and her family's beautiful. Like, she's the most beautiful mother, the most beautiful children, and they're all so talented. They just ooze talent. And Will Smith was like someone I idolized. Of course, everyone had a crush on him when he was on The Fresh Prince, you know?
Right.
That was probably before the other victims were born, by the way. But, you know, they reached out to me and I was so honored. I thought, well, you know, maybe some positive will come out of this. I'll get to meet my heroes and I'll be able, not my heroes, but people I've greatly admired who've been fighting against the same people. I was wrong. I told Megan that I found out who had held me against my will on the Epstein estate. I'm sorry, on the Wexner estate, very clearly the Wexner estate, even if they money laundered back and forth properties.
Yeah, one in the same at this point.
Yeah, one monster. They knew that the person, when I told her that, actually, ironically, Emily Steele, she's a great researcher. She just happens to, probably have horns come out at night. And she's a monster. But, other than, she and Vicky, I'm sure they clank horns all the time over drinks, you know? This will probably unite all the monsters. They can go talk about how horrible I am by revealing their unethical behavior as faux journalists. They're trying to tell you what the story is. So Emily Steele, to backtrack, actually tried to put me on her first the New York Times first television show without my consent. I was suffering from brain inflammation and crying. And she called me and I was in tears. She said, yeah. Listen. And she ran I couldn't understand anything she said. And all of a sudden she's trying to make me say something bad about David Boies and Stan Pottinger. And I hung up on her and I called them and I said, this is bad. These people are liars. And they're working for Dershowitz. It was very obvious to me. There are two sides. It's us versus them, Bobby.
Oh, there's no doubt. The battle lines have been drawn. There is zero doubt in my mind. And
it has nothing to do with politics. I want people to understand this right now because it hurts all the victims.
It does.
If you say, well, Donald Trump's it's not left and right. There are no politics anymore, America.
No.
What we have is a new world order trying to come up against us. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's very obvious when you've lived it. It's very obvious. It's very easy to wake up when your eyes are wide open. My eyes are not wide shut. Isn't that funny?
Well, when you've went through what you have went through, Maria, and come out on the other side, and I know you and I started talking back in January.
Yes.
And what you told me then really opened my eyes to some other aspects of the case that I wasn't really focused on. And, your story was, very moving. And it was a story that motivated me to search more for the truth because like I say on the podcast, it's one thing to read about the story. It's a whole different thing to hear from you directly. And that's why we're going to do these episodes here for the next few weeks of you getting your story out there and letting the audience know directly from you what you experienced, what you dealt with. That way there's no gray area. Listen here, folks. You're getting it right from the source now. You're getting it from somebody who worked for Jeffrey Epstein for a year. You're getting it from somebody who was abused by Jeffrey Epstein. You're getting it from somebody whose sister was abused by Jeffrey Epstein. There's no media here. There's no gaslighting here. There's nothing.
That's right.
All there is her story. Okay? And that's why we brought it here to the podcast. Maria and I have been talking for quite some time, and it wasn't the right time before. But after she spoke with Whitney Webb, it's the right time now to start documenting it here on the podcast, and that's exactly what we're going to do for the next few weeks.
Thank you.
So, Maria, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Bobby.
I just want to extend, the best wishes, not just for me, but I'm sure I can speak for the audience as well with your battle, with your health.
Thank you. I'm going to win this battle. I talked to David Icke, and I've never had so much hope in my life after I spoke to, first of all, the man's enlightened. Whether you agree with him or not, he's a very
intelligent man. He definitely is a very intelligent man.
He's a genius. He is. He's a genius. And he's got a heart of gold. And he told me something. He said, these elites, these people, they go for your heart. They try to destroy you. And when I told him that all my tumors surrounded my heart, he was pretty shocked. He was like, wow, they really, really went for you. And so basically, he made me be able to understand through visualization and meditation how I can defeat these people and how I can defeat my health problems. And I know that I'm going to get well. For me, I got sick because I was basically the FBI, Eileen Guggenheim, all the co-conspirators, Ghislaine Maxwell. Listen, Jeffrey Epstein's the least of them.
No,
He's the least of these monsters.
I said that too from the beginning.
Gloria Allred is just as evil as Alan Dershowitz. Does he think it's a good look when he goes after Virginia? That child has been sexually abused. I mean, she was sexually abused as a child.
And by him.
She was sexually abused, yes, by him. How dare him?
That's the most galling part for me with Dershowitz.
I can't take it. That's why I came forward. I did not want to do it. I am not a hero. My lawyers had to talk to me for a long time. I've backed her before, but I can't stand this any longer. I can't stand to have people lie about victims. What is this victim shaming culture anyway? That needs to change.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. That's why we're doing it the way we're doing it here.
Thank you, Bobby. And I'm sorry I'm showing a lot of anger today. I was actually reprimanded by someone recently when I did an interview for ID. Not the ID people, but a person I thought was a friend said, wow, you're showing a lot of anger. And I was like, you need to get out of my house. You have no idea what anger is.
Well, when you have been suppressed for as long as
5 years.
Exactly.
Half of my life.
There's going to be anger. There's bound to be resentment and anger built up.
Oh, I don't resent them. I'm here to get them back.
And that,
I'm here to tell the truth.
And get justice.
And I have nothing to lose, kids. Nothing to lose. And let me tell you, freedom. Janis Joplin saying freedom is when you have nothing left to lose. She was right. I'm Janis Joplin right now. I'm singing it to the mountains. I have nothing left to lose.
And there you have it, folks. This is a story that will not be buried. This is not something that's going away. Every single day for the last however months, we've been here on the podcast bringing you the daily updates, bringing you the daily facts of the case. And now that we are at this point, it is time to bring truth to this matter. It is time for people to know what is going on.
Yes.
So with that, we will conclude today's episode. And again, Maria, thank you so much for joining us.
Bobby, you're so sweet.
I know that you don't do this too often, especially with your health. I know you're not a big fan of coming on to shows and stuff like that. But I appreciate you coming on and speaking with the listeners, because I have to tell you, you have a lot of support out here, and especially in this audience. And people want to see justice in this case, and
thank you.
You're not alone anymore.
I want to say, though, this is not about me. This is not about an individual. At this stage, it's us versus them, Bobby.
Yep. Well, the catalyst is the fact that all of you were forgotten for so long, and that's the rallying cry. The overarching picture is so this never happens again, and these people are brought to justice. So
for that to happen, the FBI has to go.
I agree. And the only way that can happen, though, is remember, at the end of the day, everybody, we have to remember, especially here in America, it's something we've lost sight of. They work for us, not the other way around. So remember that when you're voting.
Amen.
All right, everybody. So I will be back later on tonight with a daily drop. And, folks, Maria will be back again next week. We'll do another hour, and she will continue telling her story. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And you can also find me on that cesspool we call Twitter, BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, that'll be it for tonight. Maria, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, until later on. All right, folks, well, there you have it. Episode 1 of our conversations that we're about to have with Maria Farmer. In her own words, I have nothing left to say. You know, she told you her story. Like I always said here on the podcast, the platform is theirs. Whoever, wants to come onto this podcast and speak about what they know about this story, what they have went through, the microphone is theirs. I have nothing to add to that. Maria, like I said, no gray area, no BS. Right from Maria. All right, everybody. Enjoy your night.